Hello, everyone. My name is Francesco, and I'm the host of Vulnerability Weekly. This week, that is the 2nd of May, 2022, we explore a little bit of different format. So we're going to go through the number of vulnerability, plus I had a debate of recent on a number of vulnerability for cloud that I will update week on week. Cloud vulnerability are not so time sensitive because they get resolved very quickly, but it's an interesting approach and interesting to see how this service can be affected. And sometimes the vulnerability don't get resolved so quickly, so they remain 0 days. So we'll continue focusing on application security, cloud security, and infrastructure. But without further ado, let's start with Vulnerability Weekly this week. So from an application security perspective, we have kind of the major one will be Oracle and MySQL, with the cluster MySQL cluster being disclosed with 3, at least CVSS 9.8 being disclosed as part of the 0-day initiative. And on the other side, from a development perspective, JetBrains with IntelliJ and few other part of the IntelliJ suite. And if you don't know what IntelliJ is fundamentally an open suite of software that you write code in and you commit and so on and so forth. So it's very well deployed. So that's why I've included this in this particular version. And then Zoom on-premises version with a couple of CVE. They're not bad, but because of the widespread of the Zoom settings, specifically for the infrastructure, was interesting to look at it. Is mostly for meeting room. Another good mention was GitHub. Of recent, on mid of April, they released a disclosure of vulnerability, a disclosure of data breach that could be potentially affected. We haven't seen any particular client other than few clients being affected by this, but they lost a couple of keys, and that could have affected client in now or in the future. So they disclosed, they release, and they reacted quite quickly. They've been transparent, so that's why I've included considering the issue, and it's mostly linked to a CI/CD pipeline that they maintain. From a cloud perspective, we're going to cover the clouds through and through, but this is courtesy of Christopher Paricel, that had shared on LinkedIn this particular post that I particularly like. So thank you, Christopher. Check out with him and the post. And he maintained a list of vulnerability, and we started doing the same as well. So we decided to include this and explore this a little bit week on week on the various ones. So probably a major one was the SageMaker and the RDS PostgreSQL from Lightspin, published of recently, but starting from last year in August, there were a number of vulnerabilities being disclosed and discovered by researcher, and to be honest, patched quite quickly. So Wiz, of course, contribute to a couple, Palo Alto one, Lightspin, and Orca were the more active one of late. So ChaosDB was probably the one that made the biggest news because of the distribution, because of the scale, and because it couldn't be patched or fixed fairly quickly. So there was an extensive post by Wiz on ChaosDB and the issue, and some remediation and fixes. Staying on Azure, and we will cover quite a few on Azure. The threat intelligence team on Azure, Palo Alto, discovered a vulnerability called AzureScape that enable fundamentally organization to get out of the container images where they contain. And that's quite bad because the cloud and the container concept is there to isolate the various individual. There wasn't any open disclosed vulnerability around Azure and around this particular vulnerability. The one that was instead more impacting, again, back in September, was more the OMI that is related to a service called OMI that is quite ubiquitous, quite used in a number of services like Azure Log Analytics, Azure Diagnostic, and so on and so forth. So again, I've included this because of the impact and the amount of distribution of this service. And it's mainly a transport system. OMI is mainly a messaging and transport system used. Similar to the other one that we explored before, but on AWS, break formation by Oracle, CVSS 9, again, back in 2021. Sorry. It's an attack on XML and was fixed, interesting, was fixed in 6 hours by AWS team, and could have been used to extract information from cluster and using CloudFormation, that is fundamentally a way to build resources in the cloud. The other one that didn't make this week, but I will explore in the next one, will be the SageMaker from Lightspin and RDS, the Postgres SQL from RDS. They're not 9, they're not super critical, but again, because of the distribution and because of the widespread use of this, I'd suggest to have a look at it. From an infrastructure perspective, we will explore a little bit QNAP, and there were a number of discovery on appliances and servers on using a protocol called NetTalk, and the NCC group, as part of the own to own, that is a competition to actually attack, discover, and detect, and then they disclosed in the, again, the zero-day initiative, this issue. They discover issue on the QNAP system that use NetTalk that are quite widespread, at least on home network and middle or large enterprise, as well as Western Digital, MyCloud OS that are, again, very widespread in home network. On a bonus perspective, I want to touch on this week. There was a massive DDoS attack detected by Cloudflare, probably the largest DDoS attack that we had of late, and was on HTTPS. So I think almost 16 million requests per second, 15 to 16 million requests per second. As well, Google Android has announced more stricter rule on privacy and settings that you can do on the Android as part of the Google campaign to cover fundamentally more detail around security, and Google to ramp up in security for both Android, but in general GCP. So this was covering Vulnerability Weekly. Probably I want to touch point on the Oracle one that we mentioned before, is a 9.8 CVE-2022-29813, but there are other ones already patched. So look at the Oracle critical patch alerts. There have been quite few systems affected by it and reported. So have a look at your Oracle system. IntelliJ IDEA, there were quite few fixed issue on the latest release, especially these 3. They have a CVE and the CWE assigned, and they're mostly affecting IntelliJ JetBrain suite of tools, but because of the widespread of those tools, pay attention to it. Again, as I mentioned, Zoom was clients on premises, and meeting connector controller were affected by 2 medium vulnerability around 6.8 and 7. So if you have those controller, update. So this week, not much else other than the Oracle one on application security, but I wanted to as well focus on the various research that were out there, like Wiz on Oh My God or Chaos DB, with an extensive article by Wiz on Cosmos DB, and as well the research by Azure Escape from Palo Alto. All of these were discovered and released last year. So they've been all fixed and affected, no services affected. So I hope this was informational. I hope you got the message. We're going to cover more on cloud security in week on week, considering again that those vulnerabilities get detected, fixed quite reactively, but there might be something that comes up. So I will bring up cloud security, infrastructure security, and vulnerability security, application security week on week, depending on which one. So we'll try to keep it short and sweet. Let me know your feedback. Let me know if you like those videos in the comment below, and which one would you cover more, if you want to cover more elements on the vulnerability and deeper dive and so on. I hope this was informational. This was your host, Francesco, and stay safe, go out and patch and fix. See ya.